Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where last episode we got about 20 seconds of burn time, and I think I have a solution for it, like a plan going forward. But when I started up the game here, it was going the wrong direction again until I entered Time Warp, at which point it froze the physics and recalculated it. So now it's trying to go the correct direction. So that is definitely interesting, and I think that's going to be the idea. Although I'm wondering, maybe we'll be better off to do this actually in Time Warp. Do the whole burn in Time Warp. I'm going to try it. So we're almost angled correctly for the second pass on this burn, and let's actually just go ahead and warp around to the maneuver. That'll be fine. We're very, very close to being angled for it, and the last, 30-40 seconds, we can be angling. So let's just get ourselves in position here. So over we go at a very low frame rate indeed. This is a very finished game. No doubt about it. This is highly, one might even call it ruthlessly optimized. I don't think anyone has ever referred to Kerbal Space Program 2 as ruthlessly optimized before. That might be an exclusive. Oh boy. Well, this is absolutely a thing that happened. So we're currently about 5 minutes away from this. Now we're 2 minutes away. And this is going to drop us, looks like about 40 seconds away. It's turning the physics back on at this time. So that is, of course, not necessarily what we want it to be doing. But I guess that's fine. We are going to need to angle, and we can only do the angling when we are not in Time Warp. So we have to do the angling not in Time Warp, but then we can do the burning in Time Warp. That's the idea here. And that'll turn off, in theory, the physics, and will mean that the weakness of this joint is irrelevant. In theory. I hope, anyway. That's the idea of how this should work. But for now, we're basically in position for this burn. I kind of want to burn a little bit early for this, because we know we're going to... Actually, I was going to say we know we're going to have extra burn time from the Time Warp. But if the plan is to do the entire burn in Time Warp, then that's actually not a thing, and we should start this right when we're supposed to start it. So, in 35 seconds here, but we're going to warp forward a little bit more once we get ever so slightly more angled. We're very, very close here, and it looks like we're just drifting at this moment. That's fine. I'm not too concerned about that. Okay. I'm going to call this close enough, I think. Well, we're going to instantly enter warp, and that means that we're not going to be able to gimbal over. So the problem with that, of course, is that we need to be just bang on here. So that's understood. Can we throttle up while in warp? I'm pretty sure we can't throttle up or down while in warp. No, we know for a fact we can't. So that is understood. We'll have to plan for that. So the mission right now that we're basically aligned, it's very, 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 very close, is we're going to enter warp here. And I'm going to warp forward until we're about 10-ish seconds away from the burn. So we're going to cut out like 20 seconds here. Well, not exactly cut out, but get a little closer to our burn time. Okay, that's much better. 20 seconds. 15. And 10. Cutting it down to speed of 1x. We're now 4 seconds away. Physics is turning on, so these 4 seconds are going to be pretty lengthy. And in that time, we're going to be continuing to gimbal here. So that is all fine. So then we're going to throttle up at 0, and we are going to jump back up to 10x warp. Is the idea here. So 3. Eventually it'll go down to 2. I hope. 2. These are very long seconds indeed. Eventually, it'll go to 1 second. There we go. And anytime now, it'll go to 0. There we go. Throttle up, and we're in time warp here. So I'm going up to 10x time warp, and we're going to stay in 10x time warp until such a time as there's probably about 10 seconds remaining. Okay, so we're doing this burn in time warp to avoid the physics issues, which is something you can do in KSP2. You cannot do this in KSP1. So I guess that's something KSP2 has going for it. Cool. And this is ticking down at about 2x speed, so this is decent. I feel like this is pretty viable, actually. I think this is a good way to do the burns. Excellent. So let's just get ourselves nice and circularized here. We've got about a minute left in this burn, and yeah, that makes everything nice and rigid for us. So we don't have to worry about the docking port jostling around. Again, in KSP1, I would have fixed that via strutting, not via this. I would have done some Kerbal construction. But this is fine. Absolutely A-okay. We've got about 30 seconds left on this burn. 25. 20. 15 seconds, and exiting warp now that we're at 10 seconds remaining. Okay, so we're now out of warp, and physics is going to start going a little bit haywire, but we're pretty much in the orbit we want to be. We've got about 4 seconds left here. There we go. 3. This is going to be very, very slow. Very slow indeed. 2. 1. And engine cutoff. I'm going to call that close enough. This isn't perfectly circular, but it's definitely fairly close to being circular. Okay, so our next mission is going to be to get into interplanetary space. And that's going to be a very interesting one indeed. So we're just going to go... Let's see, is this the correct way to go? I can't remember. We're going to create a maneuver node here. I think this is the correct way to go... away, isn't it? Let's find out. So we're going to go prograde here, a nice big prograde burn. And this is, of course, going to escape us from the Kerbal system. Okay, so that is an escape. I don't know what the patch Connix is doing here. We may have broken the maneuver system. I think we broke the maneuver system. Okay, that's understood. The real question here is this going to be pushing us towards or away from Kerbal? Or rather, Kerbal. So let's get zoomed out here. That's going to be rather painful to do, but let's get zoomed out, and let's see if this is giving us any patched Connix. It is not. Okay. Well, in that case, we're just going to have to wing it. So that means that we want a minimal escape. Okay. So to that end, we're going to need to back off on this a little bit. To about here. So, like I said, we're just going to wing it. We just want to escape a little bit then. If we don't have a prediction of where this is going to go, I just want to get us to about this point. So that'll be fine. We're going to need to align to that burn, and that's certainly going to take some time to do. No doubt about that. So The question is, how long is it going to take to align to this burn? And the answer is, I think, a fair amount of time. So I'm not going to make you sit through that, but it will get a lot faster once we get this accelerated up. It takes time to get it moving. But once it gets moving, it turns at an okay rate. Not great, but okay. At any rate, as I said, I'm not going to make you sit through this whole turn. I'll be back once we are roughly in position here. See you guys in just a moment. Okay, so here we are, incredibly close to our burn position, and you can see here, it's been less than a minute in-game time. In real time, of course, it's been closer to 10, but here we are. So that is fine for now. We're incredibly close. I think we're close enough. Let's go ahead and warp on forward to this point. So that looks good. And this is going to be us doing our departure burn. So all I'm looking to do here is exit the Kerbal system. Nothing more, nothing less for now, since we don't have patched conics. We're not going to know what that actually ends up looking like. So for the moment, it's fine. I just want to get out of the influence of Kerbal. And then we'll probably do a bit of an inclination change. And then we'll try to drop down to Eve, is the idea. It shouldn't be too much of an inclination change either. So that sounds good. Once we drop down to Eve, I'm not going to target the 120 kilometer marker right at the beginning, I don't think, because that's going to be very difficult to do that kind of precision driving with this frame rate and this vehicle, since we have to utilize time warp and such. But I'm just going to look for an encounter, and then we'll fine-tune it in from there, is the idea. So that seems reasonably fine for now. So this is 30 seconds away from the burn time. Okay, we're definitely going to want to warp forward a little further than this. So let's let the physics enable so that we can re-disable the physics. There we go. And back we go into time warp, because we want to move forward about 20 seconds here. Otherwise, we're going to be here for about 5 minutes to go through this 30 seconds. It's not going to be great. That's for sure. Okay, so now we're up to 10x time warp, and that makes things a whole lot better. No doubt about that. So 15 seconds, and exiting warp now. Cool. And we're going to commence the burn and then start up the warp again. I don't want to sit through 7 minutes and 42 seconds of burn with this thing gyrating around. That's for sure. The only real way for this to be viable at this point is to do it in warp. I think there's no doubt about that. That's the only way to proceed at this juncture. So we're currently positioned basically right at prograde, and that is perfect. We're 3 seconds away from the start of this burn. Allegedly. 2. These are very real seconds. No doubt about it. 1 second away. Excellent. And mark. Throttle is up. And we're going into warp. So I don't actually care about this maneuver, to be clear. I was mostly just using this as a timer, and we're going to burn here for a good amount of time. So that is all absolutely fine. We're just looking to push our apoapsis out of the sphere of influence of Kerbal, which is, of course, going to be like up here or so. So that is fine for now. We're just going to keep an eye on this, but this is going to be about a 7-minute burn. And the question is, from here, just how far is this going to take us? I think it's going to take us far enough, is the current thinking. But if we need to bring a second one up, we always can. If we need to bring one up for the return voyage, we always can too. Think about how much more efficiently that propulsion section will propel itself to Eve without this ludicrously heavy payload. So that is all good. We've got 2,400 meters per second left, and I think that's an accurate measurement there. I think that is the correct number of remaining meters per second in this outer stage. It'll be a little bit different in the inner stage. There's a little bit more fuel in there, but it's not going to be a huge amount, I don't think. Hopefully enough to do our maneuvers at Eve would be the idea. Okay, so we're definitely pushing this apoapsis out nicely. This is a fairly long burn, and that's to be expected. I probably should have had the burn be slightly earlier than this, but I think overall this is okay. So let's just get accelerated on up here, and we're definitely seeing that apoapsis rise up. About to reach 2,000 megameters. There we go. Or rather, 2 megameters, not 2,000. 2,000 would be a lot further along, no doubt about that. So the question is, do we want to do this in 2 passes? And the answer is no. I would really prefer to do this in 1 pass if I can. I think we are heading away from the prograde marker, so we are losing efficiency on this burn at this moment. By tossing in more radial to continue to burn like this, yeah, we're definitely doing that. But that should be reasonably fine. This should start pushing out faster and faster, and we should start hitting exponential returns very shortly here. We have about 2 minutes and 45 seconds left on this burn. I'm fairly content with this burn being as it is. So for now, this seems okay. We've got about 2 kilometers per second left in this pushing stage. And we know that we only have so much, right? But we're going to Eve. The main question is, can we brake once we get there? That's the main question. I suspect we can, but we'll find out. We are going to be dipping under 2 kilometers per second remaining, but this is still quite a lot of fuel at this point. So we've got 1 minute 25 seconds left in this burn. We are now having our apoapsis cross the orbit of Moon, which is fine. And out to Minmus is only like another 40 meters per second. At this point, we don't need all that much to get around. So we're going to exit Time Warp eventually, but right now, we're not quite there yet. I'm actually going to get rid of this maneuver because it's not actually helpful for us in any meaningful way right now. Okay. I'm going to drop... Actually, that's the Minmus orbit there. Approaching partially out of fuel orbital event? That is not true. We do not have a partially out of fuel orbital event happening here. I want to see how this is moving right now. Let's bring this back over towards prograde for the moment, but we're going to be wiggling all over while we have physics enabled. That's understood. Okay, let's just continue to burn this until we reach escape velocity, which should be fairly soon. That said, I want to bring this back over into Time Warp. I exited Time Warp too early. For some reason, I was thinking Minmus was the sphere of influence, but no, that's not how this works. So let's go back into Time Warp so we don't have to worry too much about our orientation. And, okay, now I'm exiting Warp. And we can see we are escaping. I want to cut our engine. I'm working on cutting the engine right now. Eventually, the physics will turn back on, and then we'll be able to cut the engine. Just waiting for an update frame. There we go. Engines are cut. Fantastic. Okay, so let's take a look at what our periapsis is doing here. Noted. Okay, that's very interesting. So for now, I'm just going to set Eve as our target, and we need to escape the Kerbal system at this point. So we need to warp to here. So we're going to time warp to that point in 11 days. We need to exit the Kerbal system at long last. This mission has been a very long time in the making, but we are finally out of here. We're currently turning off physics. Okay, there we go. Physics is now off, and we are warping. We'll be switching over to Kerbal's sphere of influence very shortly here. We can see we are approaching the exit. Time warp limited due to proximity to celestial body. Yes. So there we pass directly through. And we're now in orbit of Kerbal. So that looks good. We're just waiting for the physics engine to get caught up. Eventually that will happen. There we go. So now we're able to move again. That looks good. And at this point, what I want to do is I want to check our inclination. So 2.1 degrees. Sure. So at this ascending node, I want to create a maneuver plan. And we're just going to change our inclination, that 2.1 degrees. So do we need to go up or down here? I don't actually know. We'll find out. Down. Okay, so we're going to go this direction. And let's just bring that around to 0.0. We could probably get an encounter without this, but I would prefer to have us be in the correct inclination. This also makes it less likely for us to re-encounter Kerbin at this point, which we would not want to do. So this is 300 meters per second right now. Okay. Sounds good. As a hypothetical, can we do multiple maneuvers in KSP2? Yes. As a hypothetical, if we were to come up here, how much DV is it going to cost us? What? No. I want to grab this guy. No. Okay, I guess we're going to have to move this around. Yeah, it really wants to grab this maneuver node. Maybe if we grabbed it, like, here or so. Yeah, that works. Okay, how much DV is this going to end up being? The maneuver breaks. Okay, good to know. So in that case, we're not going to be able to do that for now. We're just going to have to position for this. Well, we do need to turn for the inclination change. That'll be 350 meters per second. And we know that we're going to burn out this fuel in 1890 meters per second at this point. That is understood. The real question is how much DV is going to be remaining in these tanks once we ditch these? And I don't know the answer to that. Hopefully it's enough to do the braking maneuver. I would be checking, except that I don't think the maneuver nodes can support what we're trying to do here. So we're just going to have to wing it, I think. At any rate, it's going to take a very long time to get turned to this inclination change. So I'm going to cut this out, and it is about time to put a cut in anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we're going to head on over, assuming that we think we have the DV after this turn. We'll see what that ends up looking like. I suspect it'll be okay. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.